Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. I'm Saadia and you're watching FTV with Saadat. Today's program is yet another important program in relating to the Kashmir cause. And as you all know that Yasin Malik, who is a freedom fighter and who's fighting for the rights of the Kashmiri people to have their independent Kashmir, is being held as a political prisoner for many years now. And despite being held as a political prisoner and being in jail for such a long period of time, he has still holding his assertive stance. And it's very great of him that even while being in a cell, solidarity cell, he has still not budged before the Indian army. Um, and today we are very lucky that we have with us Mushaal Mullick, who is wife for Yasin Malik, and she's always stood by his side in his this noble cause, and has been a big support for him. So I welcome you, Mushaal Malik, in this program. And then
Thank you.
we have Zafar Khan Saab. He is the diplomat bureau for the JKLF. Then we have Claire Bidwell, who is the co-founder for LKD, Let Kashmir Decide movement. We have with us Rehana Ali, and she is the liaison officer for the Let Kashmir Decide. Also, we have with us Waqas Akram. He is the media coordinator for Let Kashmir Decide. So we will be just noting out the what are the issues in relating to the Let Kashmir Decide, and then also we will be talking about the plight of these political prisoners. And before I start, viewers, I would like to bring this to your attention that to the point that the Kashmiri women are the most vulnerable victim of the gang rape by Indian Army. Kashmir has the record highest number of these cases, rape cases, even higher than Bosnia and Chechnya. And Mushaal Mullick is a very good example of holding a beacon for those victimized women, including their voice in national and international forums. She's also the human rights activist. So I will be first starting with her. Mushal, would you please, first of all, I would like to know, and viewers would also like to know that have you had a contact with him and how is he in relation to his health, and are you satisfied with the treatment that they are giving him?
Assalamu alaikum and good evening to all of you, and thank you very much to Let Kashmir Decide and to all the organizers of this webinar to invite me and my daughter Razia Sultana, and it's starting this campaign to release Yasin Malik, my husband, and a Kashmiri top leader of the resistance movement. It's been a very tough year, honestly speaking. 2019 especially, and then 2020 has been for everyone because of the corona and everything and the lockdowns. But definitely for our family and for all the JKLF people and all the Kashmiri people living under the Indian occupation, it's been very, very tough for families. Numerous, countless arrests of people, including all the top leadership, and then especially the kind of wrath that Yasin Malik had to face by the Indian state authorities, because one of his main faults this time was when he got arrested on 22nd February 2019, which happened to be our 10th wedding anniversary, and that night they took him away, which is like, very naturally anniversaries, birthdays, they're emotional days, or Eid, or some kind of religious sentiments, or some old memory. So it was very painful for us the day he was leaving, and he was kept in Kotibagh for a few days, and then he was shifted to Jammu jail, and from there onwards to Tihar. And one of his main faults was definitely that he united all the leadership under the Joint Resistance Leadership banner, because this is his belief system that through unity, even if you have an ideology which is of independent Kashmir and Kashmir Banega Pakistan, or whatever ideology, that is the right of Kashmiri people to decide
Yes.
their. And he wanted that all the top leaders should join on one page against the strikes, the curfews that go on, and the protests, the jalsas, the rallies, to bring more power into it against the Indian occupation. And that was really, really irritating for the Indian state. And then he is an icon of peace also and a peaceful resistance movement. And though he was the founder of the armed struggle, he renounced it and he followed the Gandhian path. Until date, he has become the symbol of that peaceful resistance. And a maximum credit goes to him and his ideology that 99% of the movement right now in Indian
Yeah.
occupied Kashmir is peaceful. So this is like something which is really,
Which
I
is
think
very emotional.
it's in the favor of the international world and also in India that there is a very strong political leadership if some decision has to be made. But somehow this fascist regime over there, they have totally lost their minds and they think that they can crush the movement. But Kashmiri people are not ordinary people like from different sovereign countries. Uh, their mechanism is very different from ordinary people because I would say that they're extraordinary because they're used to combating such a huge occupation without any ammunition, without any arms. They're completely fearless. So I think any kind of might or crushing or terrorizing them in various ways will be what do you call will fall negative on the Indian state. Our resistance will grow stronger.
But do you have any contact with him?
I have contact with him through my sister-in-law and through my mother-in-law. They meet him sometimes, and I'm in contact with a lawyer also. So it's very difficult to meet him over there for them. But when they meet him, the time that they spend with him, and then they share his health conditions with me and with the press also. They've done numerous press conferences regarding his health issues and rights of
Yeah, but
political prisoners because India is also a signatory to the Geneva Conventions on the
yes,
Rights of
exactly.
Persons.
Yeah.
And Yasin is not getting any of it. Already his health is fragile. He has numerous ailments, and he is not a terrorist. And he's been keeping in the worst circumstances ever. I mean, the psychological pressure, the trauma that he has to go through, and such fragile health. And then on 1st of April, he had announced fast on to death. But, thanks to Allah Almighty and to all the prayers of his well-wishers around the world, it was conveyed to him that this is now the time of Corona, so kindly delay it for some time because he's not getting justice. And he also wrote a letter to jail, which was published internationally, or it was spread all over the social media. A very sad letter, and also it contained in detail what's happening with him and why, and he is not getting any rights to address the cases or the allegations that are being put.
Okay. Razia Sultana, I would like to welcome you as well. Welcome aboard. And would you like to give any message to your father?
Yes, I would.
Yes, please go ahead.
Please save the Kashmiris. Help my father. He's in jail. He's sick. Please help the Kashmiris. Corona bhi aa gaya.
Yeah.
Please.
I hope this voice can be heard and they do listen to it because this is such an irony that we are in. Mishal, is his health is getting better or is he still in a very bad condition, his health wise?
And I mean, after the corona wave started, unfortunately, no one could meet him from the family. So it's a time when the whole world has announced, especially after corona, to depopulate areas around the world, especially prisons, and they're releasing prisoners. But unfortunately, the opposite is happening within India. Jails are getting more and more congested over there, more and more prisoners over there, and they've not met. Yasin has not met any family member. He doesn't have access to anybody right now on the telephone. So it's just like prayers are going on and letters internationally sending them to world bodies to to at least save him because Tihar is a very populated jail. But there were news that they might be releasing some prisoners from there, but Yasin doesn't fall in that category probably because
And that's very unfortunate, yes.
yeah, and we have demanded that he should be hospitalized um, at an emergency level because he already has a metallic valve and he has stones in his kidneys. He has problems in his left leg also, sorry, right leg, and then also in his neck, and extreme weakness and very unhygienic and dilapidated condition of the cell where he's kept. So these are things which can directly affect, and he's an asset for not just for the Kashmiri people, but for all peaceniks around the world and who want to, save the Kashmiris and resolve the issue. Because he's not just my husband;
Yeah.
he's part of the solution of
Yeah.
the peace of South Asia and of also the world. And
Yeah.
I met the UN Secretary General a few months back in Islamabad,
Mhm.
and I just told him two things that, one thing is that, how long is this going to go on? That, your reports are coming forward from the UN, Human Rights Council, Amnesty International, British Parliament, European Parliament, and everywhere. But that's not enough. What's happening right now is a genocide. It's a humanitarian tragedy. And the key to the solution lies with the top leadership of
Yeah.
Kashmir issue that calls
Yeah.
the shots, because the public does not. If something happens to Yasin, the
Yeah.
top leaders over there, especially Yasin, who's at very high risk, then it'll be impossible to resolve this issue, because
Yes.
already the
Yes.
public is so angry, it's so frustrated.
Exactly. Yeah.
They've already lost trust in the global world, but they still want to give peace a chance and some solution given to them. So if ever you want to solve the solution, you better get him airlifted, save the leadership from there, because you don't expect to go to every Kashmiri to ask them what they want, because they will lose faith if something their top leadership gets assassinated.
Hmm.
So that's very, very important, because that's what India wants. India
Yes.
wants a leaderless movement. That is part of their larger goal. They want movement without guidance. And Yasin has a huge popularity amongst the masses over there. In the public. The public knows that he has offered sacrifices, and not just sacrifices, he has followed all international norms and followed all possibilities to explore peace between India and
Peaceful.
Pakistan and to solve the issue once and for all. He has never been an obstacle for peace. He has never been an obstacle in any of the peace processes. But now, finally, the way things are going on from the Indian side, I think it's vital to save him, not just because he's my husband or Razia Sultana's
Razia
father,
Sultana's
but
father,
for
yeah,
the
but for
peace of the
the
region.
peace of Kashmir, yeah, because
And also
obviously
the
this will
region.
aggravate situation. Yeah. Zafar Khan Sahab, I would like to ask you that you are in UK and you are the diplomatic bureau of JKLF. What have you done so far in regards to Yasin Malik, like condition that if he's been, or what have you like exactly done in this matter?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I'd like to extend my greetings to Mrs. Malik and Razia Sultana, and indeed all the colleagues on the panel. And thank you very much for inviting me along with these distinguished panelists to speak about Yasin Malik. As quite rightly Mrs. Malik has said, Yasin Malik is part of the solution in the Kashmir conflict, Kashmir issue, Kashmir dispute, and he is also a prominent Kashmiri politician who has very sound credentials at international level. He gave up armed struggle 30 years ago, and as quite rightly has been pointed out by Mrs. Malik, he was the pioneer of the armed struggle against the Indian occupation, but he took the peace road to peace and peaceful solution, and that is where he has stood since then, and he is committed to a peaceful resolution based on the sovereign rights of more or less 21 million Kashmiri people who are since 1947 forcibly divided between two major powers in the subcontinent. And I'll come to your question directly, but I think it's important to contextualize the issue of Kashmir, who are deployed in Kashmir eyeball to eyeball since then. And indeed, Yasin Malik and his party want to make Jammu Kashmir a bridge of peace in the subcontinent, a bridge of peace between the two warring nations, and that is where he's really committed. Now, coming back to your question, of course, as his party, who are also committed to his mission and mission of the party, which is to seek what Yasin Malik is advocating, um, uh, is to actually ensure that his plight is actually conveyed to various people, not just governments, but also human rights organizations, also civil society organizations, and from time to time, on regular basis, we actually write to organizations. In fact, appeals such as specifically on Yasin's right to fair trial, for example. This is one of the fears of his party and people who support his cause and Kashmiris. And I get messages almost every day from people in Kashmir who are fearful of what potentially could happen, and the intentions of the Indian government in regard to particularly Yasin Malik. I mean,
Sir,
to specifically
sir,
respond to your question,
with due respect,
we,
sorry to
we,
cut
we
you,
yeah.
but I know that since 1994 he is in a favor of a path of unarmed and a non-violent struggle, and the Indian army has held him political prisoner based on the baseless claims, and he is still in the jail, and he's been to the jail for so many times. But do you think, as you just mentioned, that you have written to different institutions, but do you think is that enough for him to be freed from the jail? Or do you need
No,
to
no,
implement something else? Because, of course, we all know this
yeah.
writing isn't going to do us any good.
No, of course not. No, of course not. I mean, I think the usual activities that his party. I mean, I speak for his party. His party actually undertakes these public demonstrations. Is to also meet various opinion makers, whether they are parliamentarians here in Britain and elsewhere, where Kashmiris are based, and indeed
Okay.
JKLF organization exists.
Mhm.
And also put across about Yasin Malik's incarceration, and put the case straight. Put the facts straight. In the fact that his incarceration his arrest is illegal. I mean, he has not committed
Yes,
any
yes, yes.
crime, and the fact that he's being tried for cases that happened 30 years ago, and he has there is no evidence against him,
Mhm.
and the fact that it is quite evident that he is not getting a fair trial, and the fact that the National Investigation Authority of India has, to my mind, and I've looked into this, manufactured cases against the Kashmiri political prisoners, Kashmiri leadership, right across the board, and also against Yasin. But what is important in Mr. Malik's case is that he is such a prominent person. He
Yeah.
has actually such a high profile in terms of Kashmir struggle over the past 35 years, that the Indian government simply wants to silence him, and we fear for his life. That is
Yes,
what is
exactly. So,
actually
yeah,
the issue.
yeah, that is the
And
issue
we put
because
that across wherever we can. We would put that fact across.
okay, I hope this will do us any justice. Claire, coming to you, you are in UK as well, and you know that if there's any case of rape goes on, the court goes to any extent, to any limit to punish the victim. Sorry, to punish the molester. But in Kashmir, we see thousands and thousands of women being gang raped every day, and no justice is being done. So do you not see any divided human rights rules here?
Sorry, can you repeat that last question? That just the end.
Uh, I'm just saying that is it not a clear division of divided rules of human rights that in the West they give such a big punishments, but in Kashmir there is no check and balance. And then I think last year there were like two of the girls. They were also raped by the minister, and then the BJP government they just stood and saved that man. So this is a clear violation of human rights. And why do you think this is such a
Yeah,
big
totally. Yeah, totally. So I'm not picking you up clearly. Did you say rape cases against women?
Yeah, can you hear it now?
Yes, I can hear you now. Yeah, I was going to just make sure I'm answering the right question. Yeah, totally. There is a complete and total divide between what's happening in the West and what's happening over in, Indian occupied Kashmir and all that area of the world around Kashmir. United Nations obviously has a lot to answer for. We know within the mechanics of that it's controlled by the bigger countries and what they have to say. And it's something that within the human rights articles and charters, which we know already are amazing. And if everybody was following those across the world, what a different world society we have. So it's an absolute disgrace because none of these human rights are being met. No, it's disgraceful. And I know that there is a lot of research been done to this. It's been taken to the United Nations. It's been held and told at the highest level, and yet still not enough is being done. So that's another battle that obviously everybody is fighting against.
Okay. So do you think that they're ever going to realize this thing?
Well, we have to remain optimistic, don't we? We have to remain optimistic. And I think we just need to raise the awareness like people are doing amongst more people and just have to keep making those movements. I mean, unfortunately, the only way I could see for solutions with that at the moment is through governance, is through putting pressure on our, political leaders and through to the United Nations. It comes down again to the protesting, the letter writing, so that UN, United Nations and world leaders are doing more than insisting and urging and demanding. Yeah, there is a very, very clear divide. There's no question on that. Whether it can be solved, yes, we have to hope that one day it will be, and people will, humanity will prevail, because I think we're all getting a little bit fed up, to be honest, of the the human crimes to humanity, and that money seems to be winning out. And there does seem to be a growing unrest, one against the Modi government, and secondly about the power that the West has over the rest of the world. So I hope so. I remain optimistic. It may not be fast, but I think one day we will see it. It's just a shame it's so slow.
Okay, coming to you, Waqas, could you please tell us that since, as mentioned by Mushal, that the people are getting very angry and frustrated now in Kashmir. So do you think it's going to aggravate to a bigger problem if the Kashmiris come to free themselves?
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much, Saadia, for inviting us on this show and giving us time to express our views over Kashmir. And I also like to say thank you to all our respectable guests, Ma'am Mushaal Mullick and my little sister Razia Sultana and Zafar Khan Saab. And also especially thank you to Claire Bidwell. She's joining from United Kingdom and she's also the co-founder of the campaign. So the thing is, Saadia, first of all, I would like to especially, I don't have words to express my feelings. Whatever the Yasin Malik's family is going on, I mean, you can see this is the story of the every second home in the Kashmir. That's what the India is doing in Indian occupied Kashmir, and especially the Yasin Malik Saab. He is not only the leader of the JKLF, okay, he is the voice of every Kashmiri. He is the Kashmir voice. He is popular in Indian occupied Kashmir, in Azad Kashmir, and not in just like in this continent, but he has huge following even in Europe, even in America. His followers, his supporters are all around the world. So Yasin Malik is the pure democratic voice of the Kashmir. He is not like, for example, me. I never been in the JKLF before. I was my political affiliation is with another party. But despite of our ideology, political ideology, whatever, when it comes to the Yasin Malik Saab, all Kashmiris, we are one voice. We stand with Yasin Malik. We stand with his family. and we are requesting our international community, world community, to please join, support, and put pressure on India for his release. And for example, like if India can go to the International Court of Justice for his spy Kulbhushan Yadav, so why Pakistan's government is not knocking the door of the International Court of Justice for Yasin Malik and all other political prisoners which are in the jail in occupied Kashmir? Pakistan should also knock the door of the International Human Rights Commission, United Nations Human Rights Commissions, and all available platforms internationally for his release and all other political prisoners release. Because Yasin Malik Saab, he is the symbol of the resistance. He is the peaceful and democratic voice of the Kashmir, and what his ideology is. His ideology is he was saying from last several years that issues this Kashmir dispute can't be resolved. There is no gun solution for this dispute.
Yeah.
The things should be resolved
Yeah, but do you
peacefully
think
through dialogue.
the people of Kashmiris are not to the point of point of no return because they are very aggravated because of the situation.
Yeah, right. You're of course
coming forward to that they want to take this in their own hand, and if they do, what do you think would happen? Would it be a good choice for them?
Sorry, Saadia, you're going in and out. Could you please repeat your question once more?
I'm just saying that do you think that if they take this decision in their own hand to free Kashmir, do you think it's going to work? It will be a good decision for them?
Sorry, Saadia, I'm so sorry. The connection, I mean, can you please repeat once more? I'm so sorry. I think my internet connection is a little bit down.
Okay,
so
I'm just
I can
saying
hear
that,
you clear.
Can you hear me now?
No, yes, it's better now. Yes, please.
I'm just saying that the Kashmiri people, they have been like kind of aggravated now because they want to take this decision in their own hand to free the Kashmir. So do you think it will be a good or wise decision for them, or they should continue with the peaceful struggle that Yasin Malik has been in favor of?
Actually, you know that from this Kashmir dispute from last 70 years, there is a lot of anger in the people. Okay, our generations are suffering from last 70 years, so that's why there is a lot of anger. But still, like we Kashmiris are the whole hopeful. This is our indigenous movement. No one else. This is not anyone else movement. This is the Kashmiri people movement. Okay, for freedom, for the right of self-determination. But you're right. There is a lot of anger in the Kashmiri nation, especially in the youth. So, but Yasin Malik ideology, I believe, is the best thing to apply in current scenario because we want peace. Kashmir want peace. We have sacrificed enough lives in last 70 years. And there is lot human right violations in Indian occupied Kashmir, lot of political prisoners, and lot going on there in Indian occupied Kashmir. So peace is the only solution. Okay, this region wants peace, and the way of peace for this region goes through Srinagar and Muzaffarabad. Okay, so the United Nations and all international community, they should put pressure on India to release all political prisoners, Yasin Malik Saab, Ali Gilani Saab, and there are several others. Okay, they should be immediately released. And number two, they should put pressure on India to resolve this Kashmir dispute peacefully through dialogue as per United Nations resolution. That's what we want. And let Kashmir Decide campaign. We are with Yasin Malik. We stand with their family. We stand with Yasin Malik, and we will raise our voice in the international community for the release of the political prisoners. And whatever we can do it for his release.
Inshallah. Rehana, you are the liaison officer for Let Kashmir Decide. Could you please tell us that what have you done so far in relation to this campaign that you've been working for?
I'd like to thank you for inviting me to the show, and I would like to say hi and assalamu alaikum to all the participants and the viewers. And I would like to thank Mishal, Razia, Sultana, and Zafar for actually joining us today. As a liaison officer, like my job is to make sure that everybody's united. Like I'm uniting my team, and I'm uniting the Kashmiri groups in UK and around the world. In this campaign, I have been joining hands with Claire and Waqas and my other team. We have been trying to put all the group together. We've been trying to we got a petition done, and if what was actually put on our group. So we've been asking everybody to actually sign the petition, and then we have been like writing to the local MPs, and we have been trying to like on an international level engaging people so everybody can be aware of the situation at the moment, because we actually believe that Yasin Malik is the true face of Kashmir, and he's the one that who has been struggling a lot. And as I've been hearing from all of you, he has been struggling from a long time, and he's a very peaceful leader. And we have other political leaders as well who have been actually like put away in jail as well. So at the moment, it seems like all the voices have been put away, so they haven't left anybody behind who can actually take on the lead for Kashmir. So our job is to let Kashmir decide is to to pass on awareness about Yasin Malik and all the other political prisoners, so the world can actually know that what is happening, and at the same time we actually try to pass on the information about their lives, like all the struggles they have been going through from a very long time. So people can actually, even if people who are not Kashmiri, they can get to know what is going on at the moment in Kashmir, and they can actually stand together with us. And to be honest, like we have been very successful because we don't only have Kashmiris, we even have people who are not Kashmiri, but they're Kashmiri from their hearts, and they actually stand by us as well.
Okay, coming back to you, Mushaal Mullick. Just today, Joe Biden.
Sorry, Saadia, I just want to, make one more point here. As you mentioned in the beginning of the program, that is there any hope that Yasin Malik will get justice there from any courts or anything? So one thing I want to say very clear is we have no hope that Yasin Malik will get a fair trial under Indian judiciary under this fascist Modi government. Okay, we are not hopeful at all, because the recent example that you have seen there is the Babri Masjid verdict. Okay, I believe you are aware of that
Yeah,
how
yeah.
they destroyed, martyred the Babri Masjid, and now their Supreme Court verdict that is totally against Muslims. So another thing, in past few I believe in past few months, their judges came out and they blamed BJP government, that BJP government is manipulating the judicial process there. So we have no hope there that they will get a fair trial under the Indian judiciary under this fascist Modi government's regime. So that's why we will appeal United Nations and all nations of the world, especially the Western nations and also the Americans, that they should please stand with us. They should speak for the release of the Yasin Malik and all political prisoners there in Kashmir. Thank you.
Mushaal Mullick, coming to you. Just today, Joe Biden, he is also a candidate for the presidential election of United States of America. Today, he said that India has to have a peaceful resolution with into Pakistan in relation to the Kashmir issue. Do you see any hope to it? Because he's quite a very strong candidate for the presidential election.
Yes, he has been raising a voice in favor of the Kashmiris, and I appreciate any person supporting us, and that to a presidential candidate from America, which is part of the permanent five countries. This is a welcoming statement, and I think the Kashmiri diaspora and all the peace-loving people around the world, especially those based in America, be it Pakistanis, be it from any race, color, caste, creed, they should lobby more over there with the senators, with the Republicans, also not just with the Democrats. This thing it's a continuous effort. It's a tireless effort that has to keep going on. And when you're doing a campaign to get Yasin out, because whatever is happening right now with him, it is something which is pretty obvious that it's vindicative and a politically motivated show trial, and anything can be expected from the Modi regime. And his only fault is that he's committed towards a peaceful and a political resolution of the coldest pending conflict in the United Nations agenda. And I think we should all lobby through this campaign also to appeal to the international community to declare Mr. Yasin Malik as a prisoner of conscience and protected personality. And he should immediately be hospitalized and to safeguard his life. And and he doesn't have a passport as well. So I have been writing letters. I've been writing letters for a long time, even before his arrest, on various crises that were taking place within Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir. I wrote a letter recently to the High Commissioner for Human Rights, to Miss Michelle Bachelet. And then, Razia, can you get aside, please? And to the UN Secretary General also, and to the Under Secretary, the Special Advisor at the UN on prevention of genocide. And I have mentioned a lot of details. I can share them with you, which, if you want, because it has a summary of the various cases, as Mr. Zafar already mentioned, that they have reopened a 30-year-old case against Yasin, 30-year-old cases, not just one case against him. So that itself shows that it is definitely not going to be a fair trial for him. And this is something which we really need to advocate, whatever is happening with him, the legal rights that he's not getting, and the fear of him being killed by the Indian state authorities through a fake trial and to punish him. So this is going to be detrimental, not just for the Kashmiris, as I mentioned before. This is a global village. This whole world is so small now. It's a global economies and global securities.
Yes, exactly. Hello?
Scary that if it expands, things can get worse. So where does the key lie? As Mr. Waqas also said, the key lies in Srinagar and in Muzaffarabad. So if this issue is not resolved once and for all with the help of the top leadership of Kashmiris, without them, it's impossible. It's completely impossible. You can't bring ghosts to solve such issues. And secondly, there are various legal forms and formats of how to address this issue. ICJ to the ICC to with the various rapporteurs within the United Nations on torture, on various other issues on right to self-determination. There are various committees over there. We need to continuously lobby, and I have mentioned that the PI should be a Kashmiri, and that envoy should be a Kashmiri also. So these are things which I'm trying to raise a voice for, as along with all of you. You're all supporting us, and I'm truly grateful, Saadia, to you and to all the respectable panelists over there, to Miss Claire Bidwell and Mr. Rehana Ali, to Mr. Zafar Sahab, and to Waqas Sahab for this initiative of having this kind of webinar in such tough times of Corona. You want to advocate to safeguard lives, the precious lives of the people of Kashmir, especially my husband. And right now also Razia Sultana, she was 2 years old when she met him. And right now she's 8 years old. I mean, a little baby in his lap, and now she hasn't seen her father. I mean, childhood days, they never come back. But I don't know what she goes through. I can't even explain it because, and right now she's busy drawing these
That was my question.
cartoons
Also
and
that,
drawings of her.
how do you think that obviously the children, they do have like their kind of psyche. So I don't know. What do you see? Anything like changes in her behavior, or like she's mature enough now to understand things? Because children who goes through these kind of things, they do like tend to be very mature sometimes, and then but they do ask you questions as well. So do you really find it very difficult to or has she adjusted with the situation?
She was whispering in my ear right now. She's saying that, Kashmiris don't have an army. So I was like, shush, don't talk about it. Don't get too political. She said, how do we save them? Because she's a kid, because she watches cartoons and movies. There's a bad guy, there's a good guy, there's a cop, there's a robber. So, I mean, they have that concept that who's going to come and save them because they don't have any defense system. So I just told her, when you grow older, we'll let you know, because that has been your dad's struggle to, because he knows when both the countries are nuclear, so it's best to have a peaceful solution. But somehow it's taken decades for India to realize it. Even now, they've not realized it. So I think it's best that the final settlement should be the UN resolutions. Give Kashmiris the right, whatever they want, they should be given freedom. I don't think this is a what do you call it, demand which is completely impossible. If we
Yeah.
work on it, we lobby on it with the permanent 5 countries and share the ramifications and the what do you call the side effects of a nuclear war, then I think the
Exactly.
chances of peace grow.
Yeah,
And
and
we need to
especially like
campaign on that.
Yasin Malik, he's a very prominent leader, and he has so many followers. So obviously, if anything happens to him, so they can imagine that what kind of further damage it could do. Also, Mishal, you were talking about the leadership. Do you have any like? Do you think that the Kashmiri leadership and the Pakistani leadership have done their like a vital role in it? Because obviously they are the kind of major stakeholder in it as well. So, do you think they have played very well?
The thing is, it's not about playing well or bad. It's just that freedom struggles usually they do not come with a time frame. There are many times when Pakistan has asserted that they want a meaningful and constructive dialogue with India, including the Kashmiri leadership in it. But the Modi regime is hell bent on not including them. In fact, like banning them and excluding them or terminating them. So in such kind of situation where there's a blame game going on and it's an eyeball to eyeball situation, so I don't see any opportunity of any kind of peace happening anytime soon. But then when you go back to the times of Mr. Musharraf,
Yeah,
I mean, remember the Kargil thing happened, and then the dialogue, the constructive dialogue was placed in. So I don't know, when there's a chances of very high chances of a war, then obviously at the same time, chances of peace can also be reflected. Because at the end, everything, even if it is a war, if it's settled or not, it comes down on the table. You have to sit and decide who wins and who loses and who gains what. So this thing has to be decided on the table, but before it gets too late, I mean, I hope Kashmiris don't become extinct and then the decision comes forward. Because this land, the heirs of this land are the Kashmiri people. They are the main owners of this land and also the ones who have fought this war unarmed for decades for their honor, for their dignity. And
yes,
it's their right. I mean, nobody has a right to snatch this from them and say that it's impossible. So let's work on that. And my suggestions, I was there yesterday. I was invited by the Ministry of Information in Pakistan, Islamabad. And when I was giving a lecture on the International Day of in support of victims of torture, I gave a few suggestions to them that, first of all, we need more and more Kashmiri representation in any kind of policy making, and they should come at the forefront. And then I suggested that any kind of delegations that go abroad, the Kashmiris should be leading them. Secondly, the Kashmiri victims of the LOC, there are so many of them. They should go internationally. They should tell what India is doing and the firing, shelling, because innocent Kashmiris on both sides, they get vulnerable. They die. Innocent lives are lost every day. It's a battleground.
yes,
So I gave a few suggestions, legal suggestions on how they can work. Because already the report by the UN Human Rights Council in itself is a proof, as an evidence. It can be used as one because it's very thick and it's recognized. It can be such reports like from the Amnesty International and others, and different various cases of Kashmiri people and their gross human rights violations. Because I remember last year, Dr. Jonathan, he's a very famous Palestinian international law expert. And he's based in America, and he came over to meet me, and he was really concerned about Yasin. And he said, in the beginning, in the early 90s, we were just like the Kashmiris, the Palestinians. We were very emotional. We were like, oh God, doesn't the world see what Israel is doing or what's happening with us? Can't they see the photographs? And, in the newspapers, we're screaming. But then he said that we realized that where we were lacking, we had the political will, we had the power of the people, we were brave, we were committed. But, there's something that you need, which are the skills of marketing or projecting. And that one of the major aspects is the media or the whatever media they had.
because
Equally are the legal skills, because it's a legal issue. Their legal rights, their international law falls into it, international humanitarian law, the mechanism of the UN. So he said in the early 90s, just the way India is doing right now, it's the capturing the land, making demographic changes within Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir. So he said that they would come in the villages late at night, the Israeli forces would raid, their farms, their lands. So we decided that, we were mostly uneducated, the farmers over there. So we collected a lot of donations, and we distributed cameras, the Polaroid cameras, if you recall, in the 90s. So they gave them to all the farmers over there. So late night, when they would come, the Israeli forces, they would hide behind the windows, the Palestinians, and they would take photographs. And they were told that the roll inside the film roll is the bullet. So when you will take the photograph, this will become an evidence. So this is how they collected evidences of the Israelis capturing their lands. Though whatever happened with them is very tragic, but this is a way of collecting the data, like Khurram Pervez and many others are doing, but that's not enough. So he told me that the stamp papers, the evidence of rape victims, because usually torture, which is a very sad thing, that the torture usually takes place in dark, where there are no evidences, there are no witnesses, there are hardly anybody. But the ones that are happening openly, you can, get some stamp papers from the neighbors. If there's an attack, a pellet victim attack, or whatever, collect all of that, and we can, present it in a strong manner in international forums. And right now, the Palestinians are known as to have a gold standard in the ICJ. They work very hard on the legal side because we are very strong politically. The movement is very strong. The wave, the pulse of the people, they're fearless. They're committed. They're unified. The leadership is phenomenal. But the legal aspect of taking it internationally, I think we all need to sit together and maybe we should work on having some kind of caucus with international law experts and take their opinions and keep on taking their opinions and guidances on how to take India toward the ICJ or the ICC or other forums. There's also People's Tribunal where individual cases can go, where individual family cases can go, and there are many evidences of that also. So we need to explore that pathway where I think where we
can put up more evidence for the Human Rights Violation. Zafar Khan Sahab, as Mushaal Mullick was explaining that she has written some letters to UN, United Council as well. So is there anything that can be done in regards to those letters, like if we can promote those letters and then bring it to the attention of even to the British government here? Can they not look at these things?
Of course, that is an ongoing process. I mean, there's no doubt about that. The importance of this kind of activities, letter writing and personal engagement. I mean, we as an organization frequently meet the British Foreign Office, and we talk not just within the confines sometimes of diplomatic language, but I think over the past. Certainly since 5th of August, the sort of interaction and the nature of interaction went beyond a kind of a political, diplomatic kind of niceties. And of course, we bring two important nations and organizations the true nature of, if you like, the struggle of the Kashmiri people. And I think Mrs. Malik has quite rightly said that it is a question of people's rights. And look, whatever the objectives of both India and Pakistan in Kashmir, as Kashmiris of all colors and all political persuasions, the fact of the matter is that the fundamental and inalienable right, the sovereign right, lies with the people of Kashmir. And I think this is that is exactly what Mr. Malik's struggle is, as well as struggle of all the other Kashmiris. And we take that view to whoever would like to hear that view. And I think the point that Mrs. Malik made about the sort of strengths, political strengths of the struggle, and she's quite right. We are exploring now how we can actually create an environment within the international arena, particularly from a legal perspective, particularly from a kind of United Nations context, and bring home the importance of the Kashmir issue. And we at the moment, the JKLF particularly is exploring possibilities of how to engage with specific tribunals and also the Human Rights Council And of course, since 2018 in particular, we had been in contact with the High Commissioner of Human Rights, UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, and I think we'd like to think that the two reports in 2018 and 19 that came out specifically on Kashmir, we had some input in that, and particularly in the first report, we had input on the LOC or ceasefire line, as we Kashmiris like to call it. We do not recognize it as LOC because it has political connotations that actually go against the fundamental rights of the Kashmiri people, and the plight of people living on both sides of the ceasefire line, when both armies, heavily armed armies, use heavy weapons, and they by and large actually impact on the lives of ordinary civilians. And in fact, within the hinterland of Indian occupied Kashmir, you have a huge deployment of military and paramilitary forces since last year that have wreaked havoc in the lives of ordinary people. And every day we have tragedies taking place because of the presence of the Indian armed forces there. But of course, this program is particularly about Mr. Yasin Malik and the challenges that we as Kashmiris face around the kind of cases that have been dredged out, 30-year-old cases dredged out against him. There is no evidence. And the other point that needs to be actually highlighted is that where has India has been over these 30 years? Yasin Malik has met Indian serving prime ministers, ex-prime ministers. He has engaged with them prominent civil society people and political politicians and all that in India, and he has a reasonably good constituency within the liberal Indian intelligentsia. But of course, at this very moment, the chauvinism of BJP and RSS has overshadowed that aspect of Indian society. And I think the Indian people are under a kind of cloud at the moment, and they also face a major challenge about their democracy and what they face in the force of in the face of the current government. But I think at the end of the day, the solution is peaceful solution to the Kashmiri issue, and Mr. Malik is part of the solution, is not part of the problem. And Indian government is trying to make the Kashmiri leadership as part of the problem. He is committed to a peaceful resolution of the Kashmir issue, and this is exactly what we actually convey to the world organizations and world government.
Claire, as Mushaal Mullick was also explaining the role of media in it, and you have started the Twitter storm as well, and I can see it's number 2 trending in Pakistan. And we should do more and more tweets so that we can bring it to the number 1. So this is one aspect, and you do realize that the India has, I think, I would rather say, like, avalanche of misinformation they have put into the mind of the world through this media, because they have definitely very strong media lobby. So what else do you think we could do in this matter so that this can be these voices could be heard more, and the true information should come out, because India is definitely misguiding the world in regards to this issue. So what can be done? What do you think? What else can be done in this regard?
Well, I mean, at the moment, I think it's like a process. We won't leave any stone unturned. I don't know that we have the definite answer for that. I think one of the problems I see within all this is this Kashmir conflict, because it's hidden from many Western eyes. It's just not known by them. So we just don't have that army of people to come along and support it. And there is so much good work being done if we could bring along this people army, because at the moment we're seeing a situation where the world are walking by and allowing it to happen. You know, so at the heart of this, what we're talking about today is a human being. You know, there is a man at the heart of this, a husband, a father, a politician, a leader that we can all identify with. You know, he's like us, but with a brave heart and, you know, and a past. And what frustrates me is what he was welcomed at the democratic table. You know, the past was put behind him. I mean, it's illegal anyway because it's breaking international laws, but he should not be in jail for a start. I mean, we're hearing devastating news today about Shabir Shah, who is in Tahal jail, and he has COVID-19 and is very unwell. And people are calling for his release, his immediate release. So he's in the same jail here as Yasin Malik, and there's COVID in there. And this is actually a real emergency. And we essentially have a human crisis that the rest of the people are standing by and watching, and it's just not good enough. So I mean, within our campaign, we're trying everything. You know, we've got a song to support that movement. We're looking for anybody, well-known names, people that know within the ordinary society, sports stars, film stars, anybody that has a big following that wants to come forward and stand up for Yasin Malik, wants to come forward and speak for the Kashmiri people, and wants to come forward, please join us. So we are tweeting, we are writing. I'm pleading as well for all writers. Please write articles that you can about Yasin Malik, about Kashmir. Send them to editors, send them to newspapers. Any journalists out there, if you've got any say within newspapers or media, you know, please get in there and do that. I think we just need to really bring this out right onto the international stage. Kashmiris within all this, you know, they do need to unite together, both sides, you know, in Azad's side and Jammu and Kashmir, and we need a leadership that is working all together. If Yasin Malik was out and was in well health and hadn't been put away by the Indian jail, this is what would be going on within there. He would be sorting out and joining and democratically looking for a way forward. So we can see that the Indian government, they've put him out the way. You know, he's tortured, he's suffering, and humanity are allowing this to happen. And I think as a world's people, we all need to open our eyes. We all need to step forward, you know, one, to save Yasin Malik, but behind all that are many millions of others suffering and other international prisoners. So, you know, it's about all supporting one another, uniting one another. JKLF have done amazing work, tremendous steps forward. We would, if we could, take a march on the jail. You know, we would get masses of people from around the world. Let's go in and let it, but we can't because of COVID. So we're having to work under difficult times. Sometimes I think a phone call from Donald Trump, from Boris Johnson to Modi to say, come on, what are you doing? Let these out. It could be the answer. So it's, you know, it's just leaving no stone unturned. And if anybody has any extra ideas, I think we just want to bring our own army. My two eldest children grew up without a dad. So, you know, my heart goes in this for a daughter as well, who at the moment is growing up without her dad. And I do know the long-term impact that does have. And that, you know, that could be saved. That precious girl could have her father back, as could the JKLF get their leadership back, as could the Kashmiri people have a voice that is going to unite all, you know, for humanity and raise awareness. You know, we need to raise awareness of this across the world wherever we can. So Saadia, shows like this, you know, thank you to you, because, you know, we can do that. And Mushal and Razia, thank you for coming along and putting your voice out there, because I think for a human being, you know, for a human being, that's important to bring that
Rehana,
to this.
now coming
Thank
to
you.
we all know that India is also a signatory in the Geneva Convention, and Yasin Malik is being held as a political prisoner, and there is a convention about it that these kind of things, which is going on with Yasin Malik in the jail, it cannot happen. And still we see that there is a violation, a clear violation from their side. Do you think anything could be done from our side in this perspective?
I think the only thing we can actually do is that if we all unite, regardless of what ideology we have, if we can all unite and we can put pressure on the international world, the media, and on the leaders, that's the only way we can go forward. But then once again, I would say is that like peace can only be the only thing I can say is that the peace can only take place if the leaders, like the Kashmiri leaders, are actually released from the jails. That's the only solution, because till they are in jail, there's a lockdown, and then apart from it, from a lockdown, there's detention going on every day. Things can only get worse. So I would say that the world needs to wake up, especially the media, and we need to all get together for humanity. And Kashmiris need to unite, and we need to forget about the differences of all the ideologies, and that's the only way to go forward. So I will actually like request everybody that they can get together with us, like let Kashmir decide, and we can all work together, and we can do petitions, we can recommend and world leaders, and we can carry on doing these things like me and Claire and other people have been doing. That's the only way forward. But the best thing is to unite against injustice anywhere. That's the only way.
Okay, just my last question to you, Mrs. Malik. Do you think which kind of forums you think are the more appropriate to resolve this issue? To be very honest, which forum do you think would be the most appropriate one at the moment?
I think the topmost is the United Nations, the Human Rights Council, especially when it comes to the rights of political prisoners. And secondly, I think the ICJ, the ICC, International Criminal Court, and People's Tribunal, as I mentioned earlier. And then I think we should all lobby to, UN, within the UN, to nominate a Kashmir envoy. That is also very, very important. And then to declare Yasin as a protective personality, as a prisoner of conscience. These are things where we can save his life. And I think the larger the support is, the more I think it will affect the image of India right now. And already, India is a lot under pressure right now. So I think it's time for the Kashmiris to utilize this pressure in a positive manner, because it's not even in the interest of India, because there's so much of poverty there, and what is happening with the minorities. It's like the secular India, the fabric is being torn apart by the Modi regime. So I think we should, as Mr. Zafar said, that there are a lot of um, leftists, you could say, or liberals or peaceniks within, or doves within India. We should talk to those voices as well, communicate to them that, look what Modi is doing with India, and look what he's doing with Kashmir. So, I mean, if you want prosperity, if you want a good image internationally, then I think you should come forward to, lobby and put pressure on the current regime over there. Be it in any other political party over there, writers, intellectuals. So we need to concentrate on that as well, and also the permanent 5 countries and human rights activists around the world. And you know what? I'm not an expert on international law, and I really want to learn. I want to learn the various methods or ways of internationalizing the Kashmir issue, and especially my husband's release for him. So I think next time, if Saadia, we could all have some kind of meeting, as I suggested, where we could have some experts on that matter as well, who can guide us on how to get justice, or how to internationalize all these gross human rights.
And how we can like channelize all these efforts, so then we can actually get
and this effort in itself, as you said, is trending over there on Twitter. It's so powerful, because now it's all the netizens, the youngsters, even the older people, everybody is on the net. And if you want to send your message across, I think this is the best time, because everybody, even the busiest of the busiest people around the world, I think they have a little bit of time to see what's happening around the world, apart from their heavy workload. So I think we should utilize this opportunity as well to contact such important offices that are working through the net, and through online petitions also. So it's very important that we keep it active. And already Mr. Waqas sent me an online petition also for the release of Yasin. So these are things which can affect and create an ambience in our support. So once that candle is lit, and no matter how much darkness there is, this hope starts beginning. So we don't need to lose hope. It's very tough time for us personally as a family. We are shattered, but at the same time, because being Yasin's wife, I think it's very, very important that I put a strong face forward and to follow his traits. I can't compete with him in his bravery and in his resilience and patience. I can just try and imitate a bit, but it's tough. It's tough. But I think if I keep acting brave, then uh, it's in any challenge. If we face any kind of challenge with a little bit of bravery or even active, I
Yeah.
think then God helps you,
Yeah,
and
in
it's a
the
very
country,
very
like, you
noble
have
cause. And
resilience, so you have to.
let's do something for and doing something for humanity, even if you're not a Kashmiri, doing something for humanity and for your future
Yeah.
generations, for their safety of this planet also. All these weapons around, and this is an issue which is so horrifying for the world, the global
Yeah.
impacts it can have if it escalates even further. I mean, global famine, global ice age. I mean, two-thirds of the population of the world can be wiped out. So nobody wants this kind of planet. Everybody,
Yeah.
who
Wants
has
to
a
have a
human
safer
heart
state.
would
Yeah.
definitely feel that, let's settle it, even if it's not for the Kashmiris, but for their own personal interests, or if they feel for the Kashmiris, that means they feel for humanity. So I
Yeah.
think we should all join hands and support all those struggles or all those communities that are fighting for the rights of their people, their legitimate rights.
Okay. Razia Sultana, I would like to ask you the last question. Is there any message that you would like to give to your father? Because I really hope that your father will soon be with you, and we all are praying for it, that you soon have your father with you.
I made this for my dad.
First, Dur Katre.
Oh,
She was drawing his painting right now.
Okay. I don't know. I seriously, I don't have. It is so
Um,
painful for like the kids
like
who
this.
don't have
Can you
their
see
father.
it, Saadia?
Yeah.
Is it
Yes.
or is it right? She was
Mashallah.
नहीं और से तो आएगा नहीं. She wrote a letter to the UN Secretary General, though it was a very small letter. I will share the photograph of that, and she just appealed to him to save Yasin and the Kashmiris. Why don't you talk yourself? You're too shy. Talk to them and be loud. Be loud, sweetie. Talk
Yeah,
about the
Razia,
painting or something.
you can
you
tell us
can
that how
see
you
that
feel.
I've written something. Let me just tell you about this picture. I've written something down on it which says, I miss my dad.
I'm sure, yeah.
You're very,
I've
very
written that down
talented.
on the paper too while I was
And
making it.
your
Yeah.
yeah.
I hope, inshallah,
Sadia,
your father will be.
Razia, just I remember something. Uh, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah, she can.
Yes?
Yeah, I remember
Yeah?
some in 2000. Yeah, in 2016, I went with my son and my daughter to perform Umrah in Mecca and Medina. And when I got to Medina, I rang your dad, and I, I rang him to find out how he was, and uh, I told him I was in Medina Sharif, and you know what he told me, what he asked me. He said, when you go to the holy mosque, just offer a prayer for my daughter.
Oh.
So that is how much he loves you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. And
We
we
all,
are all working very hard to ensure that he is released from prison, and we also pray. I pray for him all the time for his release. Thank
thank
you.
you so much, all of you. Thank you for being here. And we really hope and let's pray that he'll be, soon be released, and these all the courts and the law, they do look into this matter as a matter of urgency. Because this period, as the corona is also here, so it's really not safe for him to be in a jail, and especially in the Tihar jail, which is very known, notorious jail. Um, so let's just hope, and whatever we decide, like we should promote it more through the media, so that this should come out more and more, and people should be made aware of it. This. And please, whoever is listening and watching, please, there's a Twitter storm with hashtag Free Yasin Malik. So please try to do your tweets and make this known to the wider community. Thank you so much for all of you. Thank you.
Yes, Saadia, before you end, we all are really thankful to Miss Claire Bidwell. Okay, he is a great supporter and he is the co-founder of this Let Kashmir Decide, and he has done a wonderful job in support for all Kashmiri people. And he's also playing a important role in this campaign that we are doing for the release of Yasin Malik. Okay, so that's why all Kashmiri community from Kashmiri people, we are really thankful to Miss Claire Bidwell.
Yes,
Thank
and
you.
it snowballed. Your campaign has snowballed.
Thank you very much. I mean, grateful thanks to all of you here, because I think we're all trying as hard as we can. And Saadia, I believe there's a program with yourself tomorrow, which I think we have some
Yeah.
very knowledgeable guests with us, where we
Yeah.
can explore the issues that Mushal raised there. I know a particular one guest.
Yeah. So
that
we will be
does know
talking
the
about it.
international laws. Yeah.
And we will also be talking, because since the China is also the party, so we will be discussing all those issues tomorrow.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll share a link with
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
so
all of
much.
you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much for all the
Thanks.
support.
Yeah.
Thank